After graduating with a Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry and a Bachelor's of Arts in Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations, Sheikh Hamza went on to pursue traditional Islamic studies, which took him to a number of countries, including Syria and Egypt, where he studied the Arabic language, Morocco, Mauritania, and the UAE, where he studied the madhab of Imam Malik, grammar, usul al-hadith, and the two renditions of qira'ah of Imam Nafi', Warsh, and Qalun. And finally, Pakistan, where he had the opportunity to study tafsir, usul al-hadith, hadith, ilm al-rijal, and Hanafi fiqh. All of these studies culminated in him receiving an ijaza al-tadris, literally meaning a license to teach, which is the equivalent in Pakistani Islamic seminaries to an MA in Arabic and Islamic studies, as well as an unbroken chain of transmission by which to narrate the hadith of such books as the Muwatta of Imam Malik, the Sihah al-Sittah, and the Sharh Ma'ani of Al-Athar and Imam al-Tahawi. After his return to the United States, Shaykh Hamza spent 5 years as a resident scholar of Thor Institute, a nonprofit religious and educational organization based in Seattle, Washington, teaching, giving khutbahs in local masajid, and traveling throughout America promoting the knowledge and the practice of the Sunnah. In parallel with his work at Thor, he worked closely with Islamic Relief, Care Seattle, and a number of other nonprofit organizations that serve the Muslim community. He is currently the Imam of the Islamic Center of Cleveland and resident scholar for Ribat, a center for learning and remembrance in the Midwest United States. Without further ado, Shaykh Hamza Maqbull.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى وسلم على سيدنا محمد سيدنا وسندنا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ومولانا صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذرياته وأهل بيته ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. This is a very strange Ramadan, and it's a strange circumstance we find ourselves in. And there's khair in it. There's so much good in it. But, I've heard complaints from so many people. They say, oh, well, we're not really feeling it this Ramadan. And we're not really, it's so different. And there's so many things that are cut off, and we don't get this and we don't get that. And we don't get the other thing. And it's a nice spiritual practice, for someone who wants to work out and get ready for the main event, So if you're a basketball player, you're not just going to be playing, full court or one-on-one or half court. Your practice involves doing different types of exercises. So, somebody, their routine may involve going running for a while. It may involve, lifting. It may involve practicing shooting drills, It may involve, just different types of drills that, each of which strengthens a particular skill set or a particular ability that a person has. And everybody's sitting at home, mashallah, with their Zoom on. And generally, I would not be really excited about giving a bayan about the importance of dhikr on Zoom. Why? Because I have, mashallah, an entire list of names in front of me. And, Ali Ahmad, his name is right next to mine. And he's, I don't know, is he checking his Facebook? And he's, and Khurram Wani is checking his Twitter. And, Fulan person is checking their this, and Fulan person is checking their that. And Adam is, he thinks he's better than us. So he's diagnosing his patients while listening. He tells himself, I'm saving someone's life, so it's okay. And usually we wouldn't be doing any of those things. But the problem is what now? The massages are closed, whether through our choice or not. The massages are closed one way or the other, and we have no other option. So if you want to be good, you got to be good alone. You got to be good, not for anybody else, not for Mufti Rabbani, not for your visiting scholar or sheikh or famous Twitter personality or Facebook personality, not for the other cool kids, that just learned to tie turban, this i'tikaf, not for anyone. None of them are there. It's just you, it's just you. And so after, doing this thing for a while, you realize, wow, I can either be that or I can be something else. I can be something better than that, And the ones who want to be that, they're doing it full time right now. There's no Taraweeh, there's no bayan, there's no Zoom, Maulana Saab. There's none of that stuff for them. They're doing that. And the one who wants to, be better, it's kind of like a solo initiative. So which skill set for the, we're not all here to learn how to play basketball. Which skill set are we strengthening? Which part of the spiritual game are we strengthening right now? We're strengthening that part of the game, which is very critical, which is when you're in the grave. Because unlike in basketball, when you're in the grave, you're alone. In basketball, when you're in a jam, you're cornered by people trying to steal the ball from you. What do? You look around, see who's open, pass the ball. And when you're in the grave, there ain't nobody to pass the ball to. The only thing you have is your amal, your deeds. You have your iman. That's the only thing, you'll stay with it forever. It will love you and you will love it. If those deeds are ugly, they will harangue you and harass you until Yawm al-Qiyamah, and they won't let you sleep. And if your deeds are good and they're beautiful, they will, they'll comfort you in there. And with regards to the dhikr of Allah Ta'ala, there's, every single thing that is legislated in the deen, all of it is just a vehicle for the dhikr of Allah. You understand what I'm saying? Like vehicle, right? Vehicle is what? You have like a car. Obviously, this is a mouse. This is not a car, right? With car driving down the street, right? What's the point of the car? The point of the car is not that you should have something driving down the street just for the hell of it. The point of the car is that there's someone inside the car who it's taking from one place to another, right? Who's more important, the person or the car? The person. So fasting is a vehicle. Salat is a vehicle. Eating halal is a vehicle. Not eating haram is a vehicle. The hajj is a vehicle. Every part of the hajj, the stoning of the jamarat and the tawaf around the house of Allah Ta'ala. And people, I talked to one Maulana Sahib today. He says, Maulana Sahib, make dua. Me and my wife were planning on going to hajj this year. I'm imam in a masjid. 6 years I've been put in for the vacation, and I didn't get it from my masjid committee. This is a person, he's a graduate, he's a alim of deen. He said, 6 years I put in and I didn't get my request authorized. This year I got the request authorized. I don't even know they're going to cancel hajj or not. They're going to cancel the visas for the people from downfield from hajj or not. So what is the point of the whole hajj, the tawaf, and it's a hadith of the Musnad of Imam Ahmad. Innama shuri'a, the reason that it's part of the sharia to make tawaf and to make sa'i back and forth between Safa and Marwa, and the reason to stone the jamarat, and the reason to stand in Arafat and make dua, and the reason for all of those things is what? It's for no reason at all except for just one. And that one reason is what? That's the passenger inside the vehicle. The vehicle for all the forms of the deen. The passenger inside the vehicle is what? It's innama shuri'a li'iqamati dhikrillah. So that the remembrance of Allah Ta'ala will be muqam. Not just that it happens, but that it takes up residence inside of the heart. That it's established there. It becomes the resident inside of your heart. Your heart is not, the resident of your heart is not anything other than what? Than the remembrance of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And that's the commandment of the book of Allah itself, Allah Ta'ala says in his book, he says, وَذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً وَدُونَ الْجَهْرِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ وَلَا تَكُنْ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. He says, remember your Lord inside of your very being. تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً, in humility in front of him. Not like, well, why is Jimmy going to hell and Abu Fulan is going to Jannah, and like why do we have to fast in Ramadan, and why can't we just fast in the winter, and why is there 5 salats? No, tadarru'an. Tadarru'an means in humility. Humility means what? I'm happy I'm here. This is a privilege for me to be here. I'm happy I'm here. I'm happy that I have the name of Allah Ta'ala on my tongue. This is an honor that I don't deserve, and I'm going to sure as heck make sure that I don't lose it, that I don't screw it up. This is one of, like whatever 20 tabs that I have open up on my computer right now. One of the tabs open in the computer is in the Tafsir Qurtubi of in fact, I'll just open it right now and just tell you. It's in the Tafsir Qurtubi of an ayah of Surah Al-A'raf, that tells about a person who was who was a contemporary of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, who wasn't from Banu Israel. He was a pious man from the people of Canaan. His name was Bal'am. And Bal'am, Allah Ta'ala gave him a gift, which was what? He taught him the divine name, Al-Ism Al-A'zam. The Ism A'zam is described by the ulama and by the Salaf as that name of Allah Ta'ala, that when you call Allah upon Allah by it, Allah will answer your prayers immediately. And the Ism A'zam is a secret that's carried only by certain people. And there's a large amount of discussion amongst the ulama as to what does that mean. Is it a particular name that nobody else knows? And some of the ulama say that the name is Allah, everybody knows what it is, but there's a way of calling it. But what that description is, Allah Ta'ala veils from people. So there was a man, his name was Bal'am, from the contemporaries of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. And Allah Ta'ala taught him the Ism A'zam, and he would call on Allah and make dua for all sorts of things, and Allah would answer it. And his people knew that Allah would answer it, but he never called the people toward Allah, and he never took any responsibility. And more importantly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's an incident that happens afterward, because the situations that we're in, Allah is the one who gives those situations to us, you know. So a person might be like, oh, it's Ramadan, shaitan is like locked up right now, right? And so they might be like, oh, cool, you know. And the fact of the matter is, you still, like, life is still not 100% easy. There's still some tests going on. There's still some difficulties going on, right? You're having trouble with, you know, yourself and with your parents and with your school and with the cops and with this and that, all sorts of different trouble people have. Why? Allah Ta'ala is still there. He's still testing you. And so what happens is that when Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam and Banu Israel leave Egypt and they're about to enter into the promised land, Bal'am's people, they say to him, they say, oh, these people are all coming. Make dua to Allah Ta'ala that Allah Ta'ala doesn't allow them to come into our land, because look at these ragtag, refugee, broke, immigrant type people. We don't want them here, right? And so what happens, Bal'am is now put in a conundrum, which is what? His people, in order to be the man with them, he has to make dua for something, but he knows Allah is not pleased with it, because if he makes dua against Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, you know, he knows Sayyidina Musa is a Nabi of Allah, you can't really make dua against him. And so what happens is that he goes in front of the coming Banu Israel in order to make dua against them so that they can't enter the land. And he keeps trying to say the Ism A'zam. And Allah, as a punishment, makes his tongue come out of his mouth and lengthen. He cannot move it. And so it's hanging out of his mouth. In tahmil alayhi yalhath wa in tatruku yalhath. Allah Ta'ala describes him like a dog who's panting and panting with his breath over his tongue. That this is the punishment that Allah gave him. And Allah Ta'ala tells Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, the reason I punished him is what? The reason I punished him is that I gave him the Ism A'zam. I taught him my name. And he never thanked me once for it. I taught him my name and he never thanked me for that gift even once. All he would do, he would use it to get what he needed. And then he would, that's it, you know. And then one day Allah gave him a test. He put him in fitna, which is what? To see, will he do the thing that makes Allah happy, or will he do the things that makes the people happy? And he, you know, his people kept telling him, you know, you're the man, you do this for us and we'll love you and we'll this and we'll that and blah, blah, blah. And you owe us, and all the stupid things that people say when they want to seduce you away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They said it to him and he bought it lock, stock and barrel. He bought the entire thing. And so Allah Ta'ala took it away from him. And he said to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he says, the reason I did this to him is what? Because Sayyidina Musa himself, all of the people, they're like, what is this person? We thought this person was a great pious person of Allah Ta'ala. Allah gave him the Ism A'zam. His prayers used to be accepted. Why is this happening right now to him? Allah Ta'ala tells Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he says that I did this to him. Why? I put him in this conundrum. I put him in this position. Why? Because I taught him my name and he never thanked me even once in his lifetime for this gift that I gave him. Now, brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, he says, tadarru'an, in humility, wa khifatan, and in fear. The first thing we should do is realize that this is a gift that Allah Ta'ala gave us. We should be thankful for it. We should not be, you know, think of it as some sort of chore or some sort of a baggage that's on top of us. And strangely enough, our community, most of us grew up and we've seen them, the masajid, the people who run the masajid, and the kind of dominant attitude that our community has had toward what? Toward any type of the remembrance of Allah, toward any type of the worship of Allah. What is the attitude? Firar min al-ibadah, firar al-maut. To run away from any act of worship as if you're running away from death. And that's not good. That's not a good thing. Where is that manifested? Where is that manifested? Whenever there's a discussion about any act of worship, always you'll see what? You'll see people are running toward what the minimum is. Is it 8 or is it 20? It's going to be 8, just cuz, right? Is it going to be, is it going, do you have to have 15 or 18? It's always going to be 15. Why? Because is it going to be, you have to eat hand slaughter, machine slaughter, just machines? Why? Just because. What? Because the whole idea of worshiping Allah Ta'ala, the whole idea of slavehood toward Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, it's become something people run away from. It's no longer something that people take pleasure in. It's no longer something that people take as an honor. It's no longer something that people are thankful for. I know people who are people of ilm, people of scholarship, and they have some very lax opinions in terms of their fiqh. But they practice the harder opinion. Why? Because they understand that the point of being here is to show your slavehood to Allah Ta'ala, to remember Allah Ta'ala, and to be thankful to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And there's no better way of being thankful than to stay out of the gray area when it comes to your deen with regards to Allah Ta'ala. This is also a type of dhikr. It's interesting. People think that dhikr is just sitting in the corner and grabbing the sibha and saying Allah, Allah, with your tasbih. That's great. That's fine. That's wonderful. You should do it. It's great. But it's more than just that. Part of it is learning the deen of Allah Ta'ala. That's also what dhikr is. And part of it is also what? Part of it is remembering Allah Ta'ala when it's time to act and to do something, rather than just when you're separate. The Allah, Allah you do when you have your tasbih, it's practice for when real life throws something at you. And now you have a choice to act like like an angel or to act like a chimpanzee. There's some food in front of you. Don't be such a Zabiha Nazi, bro. Okay, chalo, take it. You gotta be a freaking chimpanzee and just eat it. Eat everything that someone puts in front of you. Whatever someone puts in front of you, just eat it. Go ahead, eat it, enjoy it, and knock yourself out. If the Taraweeh is too long, then go away after 8. If that's too long, then shorten that. If that's too long, go away after Isha. If that's too long, then pray at your home. If that's too difficult, I've seen masajid in America, literally for the sake of convenience, they'll join Maghrib and Isha without any necessity or need, misquoting a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and misquoting a qawl of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala, gross misappropriation and misquoting and misinterpretation of these hadith of the Prophet. Go ahead and do it. Now where are we at? Now the masajid are closed. You don't even have to pray at all. I mean, you don't have to do anything anymore, right? So you have a choice now, okay? We can, because we're doing everything at home. There's not really anybody else who's going to be standing over our head to make us do any of these things. You can either do things the right way. If it's worth doing, just do it the right way. You just leave it altogether 100%. When you're in your grave, however, the only thing you're going to keep with you is your good deeds. This is something musallam. It's something accepted by all of the people of deen and all the people of knowledge. That the only currency in the akhirah is not dollars, it's not cents, it's not gold, it's not silver, it's not stocks, it's not Bitcoin, it's not Trump stimulus check. What is the only thing that will help you in the akhirah? Nothing with Steve Mnuchin's signature is going to help you in the akhirah. What is the only currency that's valid in the akhirah? The only currency that's valid in the akhirah and that will help you in the akhirah is what? It's your good deeds. It's your good deeds. Those things that you chose to do and you chose to do them correctly. And what type of good deeds? Inna Allah tayyibun la yaqbilu illa tayyiban. It's very hard on the nafs. It's very hard on the nafs. Allah Ta'ala is pure and He doesn't accept anything other than that which is pure. That thing that's done purely for the sake of Allah Ta'ala, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. By that person who does it in the way that they fear Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, that I don't want to screw this up, that the Rabb doesn't accept it from me. Only those deeds, those are the only ones that will be accepted from you. Everything else that's done half-assed, all of it is out the window. It's as if it doesn't even exist. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, it's as if with Him, as if it doesn't even exist. Why? Allah is pure. He doesn't accept anything other than that which is pure. إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah Ta'ala accepts from nobody except for who? except for those who fear him. And so those things that are done with his fear, those are the only things that will be accepted on that day. So, we're talking about the love of the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a beautiful opportunity for us to, sit mathna and wafurada, sit in pairs of two and alone and reflect, about what is it that we actually want out of this deen? What is it that we actually want out of this deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Do we want to be amongst those who are the ones that Allah Ta'ala's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam he describes as he describes as ana jalisu man dhakarani wa ana ma'a abdi ma taharraka bi shafatahu, that Allah, it's a hadith Qudsi that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that I am the companion of the one who remembers me, and I am with my slave as long as his two lips move with my remembrance. That you're sitting at home alone, missing the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, Allah ta'ala is there with you in your house. Why? How? Because you're sitting there and you're remembering him. Your lips are moving with the divine name. You're not like Bal'am. You're thankful for what the gift Allah ta'ala gave you. Allah ta'ala says, وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً وَدُونَ الْجَهْرِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ. Remember your Lord in humility and in fear, in such a way that's so subtle, that's even more subtle than the speech on the tongue. That the tongue moves. Why? So that it can, something inside the heart will move with it, right? Like if you take your ring finger and your pinky finger, if you try to move one, the other kind of moves with it. It's difficult. Like even when I'm moving my ring finger, you see how my pinky is moving. I'm not moving the pinky on purpose. Maybe some of you are disjointed, right? If you move your pinky, it's difficult to not move the ring finger with it when you move it. Why? Because they're connected, right? The tongue is connected to the heart. That's why it's so important that a person should be so careful about what they say, not just in dhikr, because dhikr is a good thing and it affects the heart in a good way. If you're cussing people out, if you're lying, if you're cheating, if you're speaking ill to people, then that also, the garbage of that also accumulates inside of the heart. And so the point of, grabbing the tasbih, Allah, 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 right? The point of that is what? Is that when one of them moves, the other one will move with it, right? But the maqsood, the purpose of moving the tongue is what? Is so that the heart moves with it as well. That's why the silent dhikr, if a person is able to do it, there's so much khair in it. The heart of it's making the dhikr of Allah Ta'ala, whether the tongue moves or not. A person, wal-iyadu billah, could have his tongue cut out of his mouth and still he could be remembering Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Where if there's no heart inside, if the heart is dead, the tongue can flap all at once. This is how the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam described the Khawarij. He said that if you listen to their recitation of the Quran, you'll think your recitation of the Quran is nothing compared to theirs, but it doesn't go anywhere beneath the throat. Meaning what? The voice box is reverberating wonderfully, but what's inside, it's completely dead. It's completely dead. So the point is what? Is that this remembrance should be in a person so subtle that it's even more subtle than speech, because speech is not considered like a physical action like the other physical deeds are. But it should be even more subtle than speech. It should be something that moves inside the heart even when the tongue is not moving. دون الجهر من القول بالغدو والآصال ولا تكن من الغافلين. It should be something بالغدو والآصال, by the daytime and by the nighttime, meaning there's no time that you should be free of this. ولا تكن من الغافلين. Don't be from the ones who are heedless. Don't be from those who are heedless. There's so many people. I mean, who am I to say to anybody else? Myself, I get distracted when I sit for the dhikr of Allah Ta'ala. I get distracted when I read the Quran. I get distracted in my salat. You have to keep trying. You have to keep pushing yourself more and more. You have to be honest with yourself as well. Which is what? If you're doing something to show off to someone, cut that person off. If you're doing something for a certain reason, cut that thing off. Make your ikhlas for the sake of Allah, because the only part of any of this that you keep is the thing that was only between you and Allah Ta'ala. And like I said about the grave, you're not going to be able to pass the ball to nobody. It's just going to be you and your deeds. There are some people, like, I'll share this with you. I don't know if anybody feels this way or not, but like Ramadan, there's a little bit of apprehension, you know, like before Ramadan starts, like, man, you're not going to be able to eat or drink anything the whole day. And is it going to disrupt your schedule and Taraweeh and like all these things are going to happen. And the person's like, you know, they're a little bit apprehensive of it. And then once Ramadan starts, what happens? The body weakens a little bit. You know, the body weakens a little bit. The things that you want to do, they weaken a little bit. You know, I'm on, for those of you who have the misfortune of knowing me from social media, oftentimes I'll be on social media arguing with people for God knows what, or like, you know, sending, heart emojis back and forth, or smiley face emojis back and forth to people, or, answering their questions, or just, really into it, right? And I tell myself, I say, if you want to have this Ramadan properly, you're going to have to like boycott all of it, right? If anyone is on social media and hasn't been boycotting it, you notice that the only thing right now in this time that's there on my social media posts is like, if I have a bayan, like the Ramadan late night majalis, that inshallah, maybe Ali Ahmed can post a playlist, inshallah, in the link for you guys. Actually, that bayan is being delayed because of this one, which is what I'm going to do after I'm done speaking with this noble and honorable gathering of Detroit people. So the point is this is that like the only thing that I'll do is I'll hit the share button in the SoundCloud in order to push those bayans out through the social media, but I'm not connected to it. So I think like, okay, how's it going to be? I'm going to be bored. There's not going to be any connection to social media. Yeah, it takes a toll on you because you want to be able to interact with people. You want to be able to eat and drink. You want to be able to have like a schedule that is not constricted by Salatul Taraweeh, you want to have all of those things. And so a person thinks like, what am I going to do with all of that, with all that constriction? And then when it happens and you realize this is why it had to happen this way. When the Ramadan comes, what happens? Because there are certain things in the life of your nafs that you cut down, and you replace them with the dhikr of Allah Ta'ala, which is the food for your ruh, for your spirit. And your spirit now all of a sudden, like, has like a feeling, like the feeling of like a homeless person on the street that hasn't had a square meal or a shower for like a month, and now he's just been showered and given good new clothes and is drinking like a good nice coffee or tea and is about to eat a meal, and you feel your ruh feels like that. Your ruh feels like that. The issue is this: is if you don't have the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inside of your repertory of things to do, you can't learn new tricks once you go into the grave. The grave is going to be a long time. If you have no body and the only thing that that you define your existence with is what? How it feels to eat good food, taking pictures of how beautiful you are, and defining yourself by the things that you consume and who you associate with, you ain't going to have nobody to associate with in the grave. You're not going to be pretty in the grave. Worms will eat you in the first week and you'll be gone. You'll be done. That's it. I mean, literally, I don't, it's gone. It's finished. It's done. You're not gonna be pretty anymore. You're not gonna be eating or drinking stuff anymore. All of those things that are real experiences, and they're very intense experiences. They drive people literally to strive and achieve in life. They drive people to make friends with others. They drive people to make enemies with others. They drive people to work hard and things like that. Those things are all going to be gone. There's not going to be any of it anymore. You'll be in the grave and it will be a black night. If your heart is accustomed to the uns and the comfort in the remembrance of Allah, which comes from all of these things, then that time in the grave will be a comforting time and it will be a comfortable time. Because, it's like you go into a place, you're like, yeah, I know some of this. I know some of the people here. I know kind of how this thing works. You'll be familiar with it. Whereas if you go in and, and you don't have any of that comfort or familiarity, you can't learn those things anew in that time and in that place. And what's even more intense than that is that Yawm al-Qiyamah, after being in your grave for as long as Allah knows, Allah knows how long you'll be in there. Then once the Qiyamah starts, according to your deeds, that's the only experience that you'll have left forever and ever. that the people whose uns was with the dhikr of Allah Ta'ala, Allah will give them the highest dhikr. What is the highest dhikr? What's the best dhikr majlis you'll ever go to? It's not the one that Ali Seattle and Khurram Wani go to and they don't tell you about it because they're too cool. They kind of have their secret Sufi group that they go and like whatever join and like, you know, do some super spiritual things, and then based on that they go and do a Sunday school talk. It's better than that, you know. And you know, those people who they go to do this dhikr with, the super cool sheikhs that they went to is better than them, and then they go up the chain. It's better than Shah Abdul Qadir Jailani, and better than Khaja Muinuddin Chishti, and better than Ghazali, and better than Ibn al-Jawzi, and better than Ibn al-Qayyim, and better than any of those people. It's something even that the companions radiallahu anhum used to desire. It's something even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to desire, which is what? وَمَا لِأَحَدٍ عِنْدَهُ مِنْ نِعْمَةٍ تُجْزَى, that there's no blessing and there's no nice thing that anyone has that will ever be sufficient in recompense for that righteous person. It's a description in Surah Al-Layl of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. No matter how cool your sheikh is definitely not that cool. Okay? His state is described as what? وَمَا لِأَحَدٍ عِنْدَهُ مِنْ نِعْمَةٍ تُجْزَى, that there is no blessing anyone or any wealth or any good thing that anyone possesses that will ever be sufficient for a person, for that person, except for what? إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِ الْأَعْلَى وَلَسَوْفَ يَرْضَى, that this Allah whose name that you used to call when sitting in dark rooms, this Allah whose name you used to call when sitting alone, this Allah whose name you used to call when you were together, this Allah whose name you call in the salat, this Allah whose name you start your fast and open your fast, this Allah Ta'ala in whose name you give your zakat, this Allah to whom you say labbaik Allahumma labbaik when you go on Hajj and Umrah, this Allah Ta'ala for whose sake you did it. Every single time you called upon Him, did anyone hear Allah Ta'ala answering them back? Did they ever hear Allah answering them back? Maybe some people did, and more than half of those people, we should send them to go see the shrink. Most of us never will hear Allah Ta'ala respond to our call back. But what's the haqiqah, what's the reality? There's one of the awliya of Allah Ta'ala, I believe it's Sahla Tustari. You can read about it in the Kashf al-Mahjub, one of the old books, Tabaqat of the Mashayikh, right? It's mentioned that he used to stay up the entire night and pray for years of his life. He didn't sleep at night. The entire night he would spend in prayer. He would spend in prayer, and he would make mujahada, struggle against himself. And then one night, like, he was overwhelmed. He was unable to stay awake. It just like the body shut down. And then he's asleep, and he knows he's asleep. And he sees a dream in which Allah is speaking to him. And in the dream, he says, Ya Allah, how is it my entire life I struggled against myself? I denied myself sleep in order to speak to you, and you never revealed yourself to me. And now I know I'm asleep right now. Like my body, I'm paralyzed. I can't even wake myself out of this dream. Why is it that now I feel your sacred presence? And so he feels in his dream that Allah is telling him what? He says that if you didn't for that many decades of your life, if you didn't struggle against yourself in order to call upon me, he said, this night you wouldn't have seen me. This night you wouldn't have seen me. So imagine that. This is like a small simile or metaphor, like an analogy for what? For that day. That there are people, they sit in these dark rooms, they sit alone, you know. Allah knows best. Are you actually listening to the bayan right now, or are you Facebooking LOL, that looks Instagram, that looks like it was delicious iftar next year, inshallah, when outbreak is, or lockdown is, lifted, or no more social distancing, ha ha ha, LOL, emoji, right? God knows who's doing what. That day, the person who was sitting alone and wasn't focusing on the emoji was trying to remember Allah Ta'ala. That day, there will be a dhikr majlis that is greater than this dhikr majlis. And what is it? It is the gathering of the people in Jannah, that Allah Ta'ala will reveal Himself to them, that the people will see the Lord. وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ, that there will be certain faces that day that will be bright, and they'll be gazing upon their Lord. Right? That the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was asked, Ya Rasulullah, when people look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, won't they be jockeying each other out of the way to get a good view? And he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no, he said, all of you will be able to have a good clear vision of him. Don't you see how when the moon shines, the full moon shines in the night, that nobody has to push each other out of the way in order to see it? And that day the people will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they'll be enraptured with it. Nobody's going to be like, oh, I heard there's really good food in Jannah. All of that stuff is going to be irrelevant at that time. And the people will look upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for so long that Allah himself will say, look, he'll say, look, this Jannah, I made this entire Jannah for you to go and enjoy. So go and enjoy it. And if anyone wants to ever come back and see me, then come back and see me. And there'll be some people that literally there's nothing else that they wanted from this world except for this veil to be lifted between them and Allah Ta'ala. And that everything, that all the insecurities we try to mask through money and through food and through popularity and through all these other things, all of those things will go away. That's what the point of it is, that you keep calling. It's not like it's going into like a void and just disappearing and like Lord knows if it's going to benefit you or not. The one who calls on Allah Ta'ala earnestly in these dark and empty days, those are the ones that when the night is darkest and when people are most in need, in despair, on the day of judgment, entire nations will be burned in the garbage heap of the hellfire. That's the day that those people who called Allah will answer. Every single time you call his name, Allah will answer. Every answer will be greater for you than the entire heaven and the entire earth, the entire everything that you know, everything that I know. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us in these empty days, in these days where we sit separately and alone, and these days where we don't even see, like Maulana Sahib, who usually would be beating you and saying, go to the masjid and do this and go to the masjid. Even we're sitting at home on these days wondering what happened, what happened to our Ramadan. In these dark days, in these days that are difficult and confusing even for the strongest of us and for the most intelligent of us and even for the most pious of us, that if you call on Allah Ta'ala in these days, your calling upon him is not in vain. It's not something that's dying in a void somewhere. That Allah answers every single call, and we'll see it and we'll appreciate it, and we'll wish that we would have taken his name once more. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the barakah of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and by the barakah of the divine name Allah, and by the barakah of all of his asma al-husna and sifatul ula, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this Ramadan a vehicle for all of us to change ourselves for the better. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this Ramadan a means for his mercy to come down and for his guidance to come down and to lift the calamity, not only of this pandemic, but of the other diseases that infect and affect the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the creation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it a means for our salvation in this world and the hereafter. وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. If anybody has any questions, you can go to the chat and drop some questions. I linked the SoundCloud for Shaykh Hamza's talks. They're really good. You guys should definitely check them out. I think Ali Bhai also put a link in there. If you go to down to the recent talks, you'll see the ones that he's been doing for this Ramadan. Shaykh Hamza, I don't know if you know how to use the chat function on this, but a lot of times people will directly message you. So you may have to check that.
I don't use the chat function on this. It's okay, man. It's all good. Chalo, if there's no more questions, inshallah, I'll give you guys another 30 seconds. If nobody has any more questions, inshallah, then I'll take my The question, can you make dhikr on behalf of somebody? I don't know if you can make it on their behalf in that sense, but what you can do is you can make dhikr or do any of the acts of piety, and then you can will the reward to go for that person. You can give zakat and sadaqah on behalf of somebody because they have there's something monetary. So basically you make the niyyah of this thing, that you're giving it on their behalf, that you give them the ownership of it and then send the ajr to them. But you're making the dhikr and then you're sending them the reward. It's not like you're making it on their behalf, if that makes any sense. It's a subtlety. If it doesn't make sense, then perhaps I can explain it to you more. Yeah. Like, for example, you can make hajj on someone's behalf if they pay you, but that's like an exception in the sharia, and even that only if they actually can't make it. You mentioned the connection of the tongue and the heart. Does dhikr have to be done out loud? No, it doesn't. In fact, that was the point. Is the point of doing the dhikr out loud is when the tongue moves, the heart moves with it. And so in the beginning, the mashayikh say that it's good to do, to read stuff out loud, because so as to accustom the heart to the movement of the tongue. Whereas at some point or another, the heart can move without the tongue kind of like leading it. And this is one of the interesting things that Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was described as being someone whose recitation of the Quran was really soft. It was very soft. And Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he was described as someone whose recitation was loud. And so which of the two has a higher maqam with Allah? And Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Meaning what? The whole point of moving the tongue and hearing and seeing all these things is so that something in the heart will move with it. When the heart becomes accustomed to that movement without having to do all this other stuff, then it's definitely an act of piety to say the dhikr on the tongue and to hear it and to see it and things like that. There's definitely benefit in it, but the actual most valuable core of the dhikr is inside the heart. Does certain dhikr require wudu, or is it not obligatory? Look, when it comes to obligatory things, it's like the 5 daily prayers and fasting and whatever. So in order to say your salat, you have to have wudu, and in order to touch the mushaf, in most cases, you have to have wudu. And so in terms of those things, you have to have wudu. Then for all the rest of acts of piety, all the rest of dhikr, even including the sitting in the durus, and sitting in the lessons of knowledge, or sitting in pious company, or just being in general, even before going to sleep, or just doing anything else, it's recommended to have wudu. Why? Because the wudu, what it does is it orients the heart toward the higher realm, and being dirty orients the heart toward the lower realm. And so the Muslims are always commanded to be clean, and the cleanest a person can be is on wudu. And so it always helps. It helps to be on wudu. It helps to be facing the qibla. It helps to be in good company. It helps to be in the masjid if you can get to the masjid, etc. All of these things, they help. What are some of the best adhkar to recite? The best dhikr a person can make is 3 things. One is the nafil salat. The nafil salat, that after you're done with your fard, just get up and pray 2 rak'ahs. That's one of them. The second is to recite the Quran. That's the best dhikr that a person can make. There's a hadith of the Prophet, man shaghalahu al-Qur'anu wa dhikri an mas'alati a'taytuhu khayra ma u'tiya as-sa'ilin. That the person who, because of their excessive recitation of the Quran, is busied, excessive recitation of Quran and excessive remembrance of me, is busied from making dua. He says, while they're reciting the Quran, I will also count it as them making dua for the best that they could have asked for me. So the number 2 is the recitation of the Quran. Number 1 is what? The nafil salat. The number 2 is the recitation of the Quran. And the third is La ilaha illallah. So La ilaha illallah. Afdalu ma qultu ana wa nabiyyuna La ilaha illallah. Jaddidu imanikum bi qawlikum La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. So we then the next question: can you do dhikr while laying down? Yes. الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم يتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. Allah Ta'ala describes in Surah Ali Imran the pious as being those people who remember Allah while standing and while sitting and even while laying on their side. And so a person can always, even recite the Quran and make dua and remember Allah Ta'ala. If a person, for example, is in janaba, if they're in major ritual impurity, it's haram for them to recite the Quran. In most cases, there's a little bit of khilaf in the Maliki school. A woman can still recite Quran on her menses, but she can't if she's in janaba from something else. But at any rate, and I don't think Hanafis allow that, but that's like something you ask Mufti Rabbani or someone, for one of your ulama in a fiqh dars. But the point is that a woman who cannot pray, she can still make the dhikr of Allah Ta'ala even if she's in the state of janaba, and even if a person can't recite out loud, they can still meditate inside of their heart on the divine name or on the meanings of the Quran. And I guess because that was kind of segue into the next question. Someone asked, if a woman can't pray, can she still read the Mus'haf without touching it? That's a khilaf between the ulama, like I mentioned. In the Maliki school she can, and in the Hanafi school she cannot. And that's that. Can you recite out loud while praying alone, or does it have to be in a whispered voice? In general, in the nafil prayers, a person can recite out loud or quietly if they wish to. It's preferable that the nafil prayers that are said during the day, that the recitation should be quiet, and the nafil prayers that are said at night should be said out loud, but there's some flexibility there. Is reading or learning the tafsir or the translation of the Quran considered to be dhikr? Yes, in the sense that learning about the Quran is learning about the deen is dhikr. One of the, like the first, I think, 12 or 13 sessions of the Ramadan late night session that we had on the SoundCloud that you can listen to. It's this book, The Heirs of the Prophet, Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, rahimahullah ta'ala. So he mentions in there that sitting in the gatherings of knowledge is also a type of dhikr. And the different types of dhikr, all of them, they strengthen a certain different aspect of the heart. So one should try to, get in like all different types of dhikr. But yes, learning about the Quran is a different type of dhikr. But one thing to remember, learning tafsir or reading the translation of the Quran is different than the recitation of the Quran. What we call the translation of the Quran is really just an interpretation or a tafsir of the Quran in a different language. The benefit and the effect of the heart for reciting the Quran in the Arabic is different, and learning about the meanings of the words and their translation into a different language, that's a different benefit, and a person should not ignore either of them. Barakallahu feekum. Inshallah, I think that's it. I think we're through all the questions. So inshallah, I'll take my leave.